Good morning, everyone. How are you today? I am so excited to talk to you today about sugar. This is the perfect time to talk about sugar because didn't we just get through the holidays? And I don't know about you, but I had a little bit of sugar. And I was having a great conversation with one of my clients around sugar. Nowadays, everybody thinks that sugar is the devil. And when we look at things like MyFitnessPal, if you're tracking food in MyFitnessPal, or if you're tracking food in any of the apps, what you'll see is there's a column that tells you how many grams of sugar that you're eating each day, which is kind of nice. I mean, if that's something you're interested in knowing, great. However, we need to talk a little bit about what sugar really means and the fact that, when I talk to my clients, it's not about just the number, particularly when we're talking about weight, for example. The weight on the scale, the number on the scale doesn't tell us the whole story. There's a lot of backstory and a lot of levels and layers that go into that number that make that number either make us feel good or feel bad or not feel hopefully any way at all. But there's a lot of layers to that. And so the same thing happens when we talk about proteins and carbohydrates and fats and sugars. So today, let's talk about sugars. So here's the thing with sugar. Sugar, gotta love sugar, right? There's 4 types of sugars, okay? We have glucose. There's 4 main types. There's about 8 or 9 that total, but we talk about like 4 main types of sugars. There's glucose, sucrose, which is a table sugar, lactose, which is sugar in dairy, and then fructose, which is that sugar that we find in fruit, okay? 4 major types of sugars, something to keep in mind. So these 4 types of sugars affect our body, obviously, in a variety of ways. And the conversation I was having with my client had to do with perception of sugar as bad or good, and then the types of foods they were eating. Okay, so when we started this, I talked about the fact that we need to kind of dig into the layers of sugars, right? So what we know is there's a lot of sugars in things like cookies and pop and all of those lovely things, right? And people kind of demonize that sugar and say it's very, very bad for you, and that it's highly addictive and all of those things. And we're not going to talk about that today. That's not the point of this conversation. The point of this conversation is to help you understand better when you look at your tracking in your app or the amounts of foods that you're eating, so that you have a better understanding of what we're talking about in terms of sugars. So I had said something to this client around treats and sugars and things like that, and I needed to clarify. So let's talk a little bit more about that fructose, or the sugar that we find in fruit. And so here's a couple of interesting things to think about. So fruit has a lot more things than like table sugar. And I'm going to give you an example. If we look here, 1 large apple has 23 grams of sugar. Okay. So if you were to look and say MyFitnessPal has a standard algorithm that says people should have like less than 75 grams of sugar for a day, which may or may not be true depending on who you are and what you eat. Here's the layers and what you eat. So here's 23 grams in a large apple. So if we were looking at 75 as our total, that means we're a third of the way there with just 1 large apple. That could be concerning for us if we're just looking at the number. Compare that to 1 16-ounce Coke, which has 52 grams of sugar in it, for y'all pop drinkers out there. 52 grams of sugar. Wow, that's a lot. Now you're 2/3 of the way to your 75-gram goal, if you're following MyFitnessPal, and if you're just looking at the numbers. But we don't want to just look at the numbers, because the numbers can be deceptive. And this is what I talk about with my clients all the time. The numbers can be deceptive. We have to dig in and get into the layers. So here's something to think about. Okay? When we think about fruit has a lot of things going on with it that help our body. Okay? So the fructose in fruit, we can get more out of our fruit than we're going to get out of that 16-ounce Coke. Because what do we get out of the 16-ounce Coke? Well, we get some good, caffeine, gets us moving. Get some sugar, that gets us moving too. So if you think it's just the caffeine, not true. And then a whole bunch of chemicals in that Coke. What does that do? Well, there are some physiological effects of those things in your body, and it goes through your system really fast, right? It's a liquid, so it goes through your gastrointestinal system, zip, zip, zip. goes out your body, you don't feel full for very long, right? It doesn't give you a lot of nourishment. It doesn't make you feel super full. It might, in your mind, it might be a treat and make you feel really good. Caffeine and sugar gets that energy level up there, but it's kind of a fake energy, right? Because it's short-lived and it comes from chemicals. So let's compare that to that apple. So fruit, or that apple, has fiber in it, which helps with digestion, helps our intestinal tract, helps us kind of eliminate foods from our body. Fiber's good for us. It has water. We always talk about needing more water during the day, right? Make sure you get enough water. Well, fruit has water in it. Fruit also has chewing resistance. This is a unique one, chewing resistance. What are we talking about? Well, if you're drinking that Diet or that Coke, right? All you're doing is drinking it. You don't have to chew it. So fruit has chewing resistance, and that's when we talk about like total daily energy expenditure. Part of your total daily energy expenditure, or part of all the calories you need in a day to get you where you need to go and doing the things you need to do, is called thermic effective food, TEF. Chewing resistance. So when you have to chew your food, number one, it starts the digestive process. Number two, when you have to chew your food, you're actually burning calories. You're using energy to chew that food. Interesting. Also, there are vitamins in fruit. There are minerals in fruit. And think about the time of year we're in now. Everybody thinks this is cold and flu season. There's some good antioxidants in that fruit, okay? So all of these things we find in fruit that has that sugar or fructose, right? Peeling back the layers. When we look at the fiber, water, and chewing resistance, we need to think about this. This is why this is important. What this does is it allows the fiber, the water, and that, chewing it into small bits, it allows this food, that sugar, that fructose, to hit your liver more slowly. And if it does that, it actually metabolizes better, right? So when we have this Coke, it's gonna hit our liver really, really fast. It's not gonna metabolize as well. It's gonna hang out and do some crazy stuff. But if we have some fiber, water, we have to chew it into small bits, this is going to allow that liver to metabolize. It's gonna hit the liver more slowly, little bits and pieces, which makes it easier for that liver to metabolize that sugar and use that sugar and use those vitamins and use those minerals and use those antioxidants in your body. So basically, here's the thing. Simple sugars, your things that you find in your treats, right? They don't give us as much stuff that our body needs. Not fiber, not as many vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, all of those things that's actually going to fuel our body, nourish our body, help our body stay healthy, help our body physiologically, right? Do all the things it needs to do. You're not gonna get that from a Coke or a Pop-Tart or a cookie, right? So when we think about sugar, we need to kind of look at everything we're eating and say, are we getting good sugars or sugars that are going to fuel us and nourish us and give us vitamins and minerals? Or are we getting sugars that are gonna zip through our body and probably at the minimum not do anything for us, but could be adversely affecting our physiology and where we want to get to for our body composition goals, our health goals, all those things, right? So when you look at that number in MyFitnessPal or whatever app you're tracking, when you look at that sugar number, I challenge you to not just look at the number. I challenge you to go back into what you're eating and what that looks like and ask yourself, where am I getting that sugar from? Are you getting, you know what? There's the old adage, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? It doesn't have to be an apple, but are you getting those sugars from places that have fiber, water, chewing resistance, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants? Are you getting your sugars from fruits and vegetables, those things that you can use in your body, that your body needs every single day for you to be healthier, for you to be happier, helps your mood too, and for you to get closer to those body composition goals?